know. You're gonna have to ask Aliyah that question. I honestly, you just do your work. You gotta do your work early, and make it different. But Aliyah did say I have a special whistle. And she shot 13 today. Yeah. Yeah, she said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool.
Well, the excuses flew faster than missed free throws after Aliyah Wilson and Becky Hammon couldn't stomach losing to the Indiana Fever, so they immediately pointed their fingers straight at the referees. According to them, the whistles were totally rigged and the refs outright cheated. Seriously? Forget Aliyah Boston's absolute dominance. Forget Kelsey Mitchell's clutch buckets. It was all the refs are desperately trying to claim. Now let me ask you, do you actually think the refs cost Vegas the game? Or did Indiana simply outplay them? Honestly, everyone with two eyes saw exactly what went down. The Indiana Fever went toe-to-toe with the defending champion Las Vegas Aces and flat out beat them. They didn't just squeak by or get lucky on some miracle shot. Nope, they beat them with raw size, pure aggression, relentless hustle, and undeniable heart. But if you listen to Aliyah Wilson and Becky Hammon, apparently none of that mattered. What's even crazier is the narrative they're selling. The only reason the Aces lost is because the referees were supposedly on Indiana's payroll. You hear that? That's the story they're trying to push.
The look on your face while you're looking at that box score, I'm wondering what's really standing out to you there.
I was just looking at the fouls. Like, Liz had 5, Jackie had 5, Chelsea had 5. And that's very interesting to me because I'm not saying we don't foul. Yeah, we foul here and there, but that's very interesting.
And here's where the sarcasm really kicks in, because this is unbelievably rich coming from Aliyah Wilson herself, a player who practically lives at the free throw line. I mean, Aliyah has been the beneficiary of some seriously special whistles all year long. She so much as breathes near the paint and suddenly she's shooting free throws. But now when the whistle doesn't go her way, she's crying foul, literally. You truly cannot make this stuff up. Okay, let me break this down for you. The Fever shot 34 free throws, while the Aces had just 11. That's the stat Becky Hammon threw out at the podium, like it was the smoking gun. Like, see? We didn't really lose, the refs stole it. But here's the reality check, the truth bomb, if you will. Indiana earned those free throws. Aliyah Boston bulldozed her way inside possession after possession. She went directly at Asia's chest, drew clear contact, and forced the refs to blow the whistle. That, my friends, is called aggressive basketball. That's called earning your calls. And last time I checked, if you don't want to foul, then maybe don't swipe down and hack somebody in the post. Simple as that.
Miss Asia, it looks like they really were intentional about going to Aliyah in the second half. What was, I guess, difficult about containing her? I think you guys kind of touched on a few things, maybe the foul calls, what made it successful for them to keep running her tonight?
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Aliyah that question. Honestly, you do your work. You gotta do your work early, and make it different. But Aliyah did say I had a special whistle. She shot 13 today.
She said that to you.
Yeah. You? Yeah. She said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool. So we just gotta play their better defense, make her look a little difficult, and kind of go from there.
But apparently, to Aliyah Wilson, Aliyah Boston didn't just play hard and aggressively. No, she magically got some kind of special secret whistle. What's wild is Aliyah literally said after the game that Boston admitted she has one. Which, first of all, let's stop right there. That's not a real thing. Nobody gets handed a golden whistle that just follows them around the league. Boston got calls because she attacked, period. Meanwhile, Aliyah spent half her possessions taking fadeaway jumpers and mid-range shots. Newsflash, referees simply don't reward jump shots with free throws. That's just not how it works. And let's not forget, this is the same Aliyah Wilson who has spent years getting more free throws than half the league combined. The same Aliyah that Fever fans complain about constantly because she gets bailed out every time somebody even breathes on her jersey. But now, suddenly, she's the victim? Come on, that's like the teacher's pet who's been getting free candy all semester, suddenly crying because one day the teacher forgot to bring Skittles. Seriously, cry me a river.
Megan had 4.
What? Oh my god, that's interesting. That's what I was looking at. I'm gonna do better. We gotta play better defense.
Uninteresting. You mean that shit?
Yeah, I can't say that, Chris. I got a brain. But
Say it, I have no plan.
yeah, it's interesting. But we'll be better.
Now, Becky Hammon wasn't any better, trust me. She walked into that press conference with the smugness absolutely cranked all the way up and delivered her big mic drop moment. They shot 34, we shot 11. Next question. That's it. That was her entire analysis. Forget strategy, forget adjustments, forget that Boston and Mitchell completely outplayed her stars. Nope, it was all the refs' fault. If that's the coaching philosophy, then maybe the Aces seriously need a new game plan. Because last time I checked, blaming refs doesn't win championships.
Coach, how much Liz foul trouble impacted you on the rotation and her impact on the defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts us. We need to be able to play Liz heavy minutes. She's been an impactful player in this series. I got to go back and look at the tape, but it seemed like there was a lot of grabbing and holding down there. That got called one way.
Anything else?
I did appreciate it was a little tighter call, but tighter on both ends would have been nice.
Okay, but here's where it gets really wild. Becky actually tried to spin it like the game was called differently than the rest of the series. You don't say? Maybe, just maybe, it's because Indiana finally started pounding the paint instead of settling for jumpers? Or perhaps, could it be that Aliyah Boston finally looked like the #1 pick she was always supposed to be? Just a thought. And let's not act like Las Vegas was playing clean basketball. Jackie Young had 5 fouls, Chelsea Gray had 5 fouls, Liz Cambage. Oh wait, she's not even in the league anymore. Scratch that, but you get the point. Vegas was hacking left and right, and guess what? The refs called it. They didn't swallow the whistle. They didn't rig it. They just did their job. Meanwhile, Fever fans are practically laughing their heads off because for months they've had to listen to this ridiculous narrative that Caitlin Clark is the only reason Indiana wins games. Well, guess what? Caitlin's been sidelined, and Aliyah Boston has stepped right into that superstar role, going toe-to-toe with Aja Wilson and completely outplaying her. That's not refs, that's reality. Boston bullied her way to 24 points and 14 rebounds. That's called dominance, not favoritism. Kelsey Mitchell, she dropped 25, hit clutch shots, and absolutely outshined Jackie Young. Again, not refs, just buckets. Odyssey Sims, she cooked off the bench, crossing people out of their sneakers. Still not refs, just basketball. The Fever had a better game plan, executed better, and honestly, they just wanted it more. But no. According to Aja and Becky, the entire script was written by corrupt officials. It's almost comical, isn't it? The Aces lose, and suddenly the referees are crook, but when the Aces win off questionable calls in other series, not a peep. Silence. That's the sheer hypocrisy here. Vegas has been benefiting from whistles for years. Becky Hammon herself has praised referees when the calls went her way, but the minute the scales tip in Indiana's favor, it's suddenly a full-blown conspiracy. Let's call it what it is, deflection. The Aces simply don't want to admit that they got outworked. They don't want to admit that Aliyah Boston punked their front court. They don't want to admit that Kelsey Mitchell cooked their guards. And they definitely don't want to admit that their bench gave them almost nothing. So instead of accountability, they point at the zebras and stripes and scream cheat. It's lazy, it's weak, and honestly, it's embarrassing for a franchise that loves to brag about being the standard. But hey, this isn't new. Coaches blaming refs is older than basketball itself. It's the easiest scapegoat, because if you say we lost because they played better, that means you actually have to change something. If you say we lost because the refs were crooked, then boom, no adjustments needed. Just run it back and hope the whistle flips next game. It's excuse making. Now here's where it gets genuinely funny. Aces fans are actually buying into this. Twitter has been full of posts whining about how the league wants Caitlin Clark in the finals for ratings, as if referees are secretly on Adam Silver's payroll taking orders to rig games for Indiana. Give me a break. If the WNBA was actually rigging games, don't you think they'd prefer Vegas? The two-time champs with Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young back in the finals. That's a much safer bet for ratings than Indiana, who just climbed out of the basement last season. The conspiracy theory makes absolutely no sense. And let's not forget, This is Caitlin Clark's second year. She's not a rookie anymore. The narrative that the league is forcing her success is tired. She's proven herself. The Fever have proven themselves. And Aliyah Boston just proved she's every bit the star Indiana drafted her to be. If the Aces can't handle that, then that's their problem. Let's zoom in on that free throw stat one more time, because this is the hill Becky and Aja want to die on. Indiana 34, Vegas 11. Looks bad on paper, right? But dig deeper. Indiana attacked the rim relentlessly. Vegas settled for jumpers. That's the difference. That's not corruption. It's basketball 101. Aggression gets rewarded. Passive play doesn't. It's really that simple. And the funniest part, the Aces still had chances to win. Even with the free throw disparity, they were in striking distance late in the game, but they missed shots, turned the ball over, and completely folded down the stretch. That's on them. Not the refs. Not the league. Them. So yeah, Aja Wilson and Becky Hammond absolutely destroyed the refs in their post-game rants. But the truth is, the only people they exposed were themselves. They exposed their own insecurity. They exposed their own lack of accountability. And they exposed how scared they are of the Indiana Fever. Because deep down, they know this isn't the same old Fever. This team isn't backing down anymore. And here's where we go even deeper. The meltdown from Vegas wasn't just a couple of salty quotes. It was a full-on attempt to rewrite what everyone actually saw. The box score doesn't lie. Aliyah Boston owned the paint. Kelsey Mitchell owned the perimeter. Odyssey Sims torched their bench. And the Fever, a team that was supposed to be rebuilding, suddenly looks one win away from the finals. But Vegas, they want you to believe the refs cheat. Let's revisit Aja Wilson's comments, because they're almost comedy skits at this point. She said something like, "We foul sometimes, sure, but the number of fouls called was interesting." Interesting. That's her word. Translate, "We fouled a ton, but I don't like how obvious the refs made it look." Imagine being a superstar who gets bailed out by refs year after year, only to act shocked when the whistle doesn't come gift-wrapped for you. It's like a celebrity complaining that their free VIP pass didn't work at the club one night. Sorry, Aja, but regular rules apply sometimes. And let's really break down what happened defensively. Aja had no answer for Aliyah Boston. No, Boston went right at her, right through her, and right over her. That's exactly why she got fouled so much. Not because of favoritism, but because Aja couldn't keep her in front without slapping her arm or hip-checking her in the lane. That's not cheating refs. That's called getting cooked. Then we've got Becky Hammond's press conference masterclass in deflection. She literally stared at reporters and said, "They shot 34 free throws. We shot 11. Next question." No mention of defensive adjustments. No mention of Boston's incredible footwork. No mention of Kelsey Mitchell's shot making. Nope, just the refs. It's the easiest narrative in sports. When you lose, blame the people in stripes. But here's the problem. Everybody with eyes saw Vegas hacking away like they were chopping wood. The Aces weren't disciplined. They reached, they grabbed, they swiped down. Of course the whistle blew. It's not rocket science. You foul, you get called. That's basketball. And the fact that Becky is so determined to pretend otherwise makes her look less like a Hall of Fame level coach and more like a PR manager for the Las Vegas excuse machine. And let's not pretend Vegas hasn't been favored in the past. Fever fans haven't forgotten the whistle in Game 3, when Caitlin Clark started 1 for 11, and still couldn't get a single call despite being hacked on drives. That game should have gone Indiana's way, but the refs swallowed their whistles and Vegas stole one. Funny how Becky and Aja had nothing to say about interesting officiating back then. It's only when the shoe's on the other foot that they suddenly find their voices. This is exactly what makes the "they cheated" narrative so laughable, because if the league really wanted to rig things, they wouldn't pick Indiana. They'd stick with the proven ratings monster, the Ace. Aja is a two-time MVP. Becky is one of the faces of coaching, and Vegas has already built itself up as the WNBA's glamour franchise. If you were going to fix a game for ratings, wouldn't you make sure Aja and crew advanced? The logic just completely collapses on itself. Meanwhile, Indiana doesn't care about the whining. They're too busy celebrating. Aliyah Boston's stat line of 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals wasn't handed to her by refs. That was pure sweat and muscle. Kelsey Mitchell dropping 25 wasn't a gift from a whistle. That was raw skill. Odyssey Sims cooking defenders one-on-one wasn't some referee conspiracy. That was just basketball. Here's the truth Vegas doesn't want to admit: Indiana beat them at their own game. The Fever were tougher, the Fever were hungrier, the Fever played like the team that wanted the finals more, and instead of tipping their hats, Vegas chose to cry foul. Literally. Now let's zoom out and talk big picture. This isn't just about one game, this is about a massive shift in power. For years, the WNBA has been dominated by the Aces, the Liberty, the Mercury, the usual suspects. Indiana was supposed to be rebuilding, a young team with promise but no real chance of knocking off the Giants. But Caitlin Clark's arrival, paired with Aliyah Boston's explosive growth, changed absolutely everything. And now, in year 2 of Clark's career, Indiana is suddenly on the brink of the finals. That's what's really scaring Vegas, because let's be real, this isn't about refs, this is about ego. The Aces are used to being the bully. They're used to walking into gyms and owning the spotlight, but now they're watching the Fever steal the headlines. Clark, even from the sidelines, is still the biggest name in the league. Boston is outshining A'ja Wilson. Kelsey Mitchell is out-dueling Jackie Young. The Fever are completely flipping the script, and the Aces do not like it one bit. And what happens when egos get bruised? Excuses, whining, conspiracies about corrupt officials. It's always easier than admitting you got outplayed. The fans aren't buying it though. Social media absolutely blew up after the game. Fever fans clowned A'ja for complaining about free throws when she's been gifted more whistles than anyone in the league. Neutral fans pointed out that Boston actually earned her calls by being aggressive while A'ja settled for jumpers. And even some Vegas fans admitted their team looked flat and deserved to lose. That's the thing about excuses, they sound good in the locker room, but they don't hold up under the bright lights of public opinion. Now let's not let the referees completely off the hook. The WNBA's officiating has been trash all season long. Missed calls, inconsistent whistles, technicals for nothing. You name it, we've seen it. But in this case, the refs were simply not the reason Vegas lost. They were bad both ways as usual. The difference is Indiana didn't let it rattle them. They adjusted, stayed aggressive, and forced the issue. Vegas, on the other hand, folded and then cried foul. And here's a point nobody in Vegas wants to admit. Becky Hammon got out-coached. Stephanie White finally unleashed Boston in the post. Told her to stop floating around the perimeter. And the results were devastating. Vegas had no counter. Becky didn't adjust. She didn't double Boston effectively. Didn't rotate fast enough. And let her dominate one-on-one. That's not refs, that's coaching. But are we hearing Becky admit she got out-coached? Nope, just excuses. So let's recap. A'ja Wilson blames a special whistle. Becky Hammon points at free throw numbers, like they're a conspiracy chart, and Aces fans scream about corruption. And meanwhile the scoreboard says Indiana Fever 1, Las Vegas Aces 0. In the excuse war, the Fever earned their win. Vegas lost because they got outplayed. Simple as that. And here's the kicker, all this whining sets up Game 5 perfectly, because now the pressure is really on Vegas. If they lose again, the narrative isn't just refs cheated us. The narrative becomes A'ja Wilson and Becky Hammon got outplayed and outcoached by a young Indiana team. That's the legacy risk here. And deep down, they know it. That's exactly why. The excuses are flowing like water. At the end of the day, fans don't care about referee conspiracies. They care about results. And the result right now is clear. The Fever are 1 win away from the finals, while the Aces are stuck pointing fingers. So here we are, Vegas crying about refs, Indiana celebrating, and the WNBA caught right in the middle. The Fever didn't need special whistles. They needed Boston, Mitchell, and Sims. And they showed up. If the Aces want to survive, they better stop blaming refs and start playing basketball.